supportive spouse? When was the last time you considered how supportive you are as a spouse? Marriage is like a mirror that reflects back to us how we are showing up. If you want a more supportive spouse, I say the best place to start is looking at yourself. Join me today as we look at the 5 signs that indicate you aren't being a supportive spouse. Hi, I'm Julia Woods, a wife of 3+ decades and a couples coach, and I am very familiar with our human tendency to complain about what we don't have in our marriage, to be frustrated by what our spouse isn't doing that they should be doing. It is a cancer that destroys marriages, and I know because it almost destroyed mine. What saved my marriage was choosing personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is the willingness to take 100% responsibility for the marriage I long for by looking at what I say I want compared to what I actually have and starting to work on aligning what I want with what I have by focusing on my contributions. What am I contributing to what I don't want? Even if my contribution is only 5% of what is producing the results, I will take 100% responsibility for those parts because it is the only thing I actually have control over. And when I change my part, the old system falls apart and a new one can emerge. Now, I know this is not a popular approach, but it is the only approach that I've seen that actually works in my marriage and the marriages of the couples that I coach. I've seen this approach applied to marriages that were on the last breath in my own marriage and in many couples that I work with. Marriages where divorce papers were signed, couples were separated, or couples were suffering betrayal. When each spouse takes 100% responsibility for themselves and the marriage they long for, they begin experiencing a marriage they never thought was possible. If you want to take 100% responsibility for the marriage you long for, let's look at the 5 signs that you aren't being a supportive spouse. And at the end, I will offer you a free gift that can help you practically apply this lesson in your marriage. The first sign that we aren't being supportive as a spouse is that we minimize our spouse's feelings. When your spouse is having a rough day, not feeling well, or upset about that same thing that they have been upset about over and over again, this is a good time to notice your reaction. If you find yourself trying to get them to feel differently, telling them that they shouldn't feel what they feel, or rolling your eyes internally or externally, you are minimizing your spouse's feelings. Being supportive of your spouse's feelings is possible when you understand their feelings come from their thoughts and what they believe to be true about their situation. Supporting them looks like asking them questions to understand better what is occurring for them and trusting them to overcome their own challenges. The second sign that we aren't being supportive as a spouse is we don't follow through. Life is full of opportunities to show up for our spouse by following through on what we say we will do. Things like picking up the kids on time, running errands, or completing a task when we said we would. When unexpected circumstances get in the way of doing what you said you would do you go to your spouse and own that you broke a commitment and then renegotiate a new time that you will follow through? Not following through or renegotiating when unexpected circumstances arise is a sign that we aren't being supportive. Being supportive means being a partner your spouse knows they can count on to do what you say you will do. The third sign we're not being supportive as a spouse is you don't celebrate your spouse's wins. Do you know what's happening in your spouse's world? Do you know what they are worried about or how they are being stretched? When they tell you about things they have coming up, do you check back in and see how it went? When they show signs of growth, take new risk, or produce new results, do you celebrate that with them? The level at which we do these things is a good barometer of the support we offer our spouse. If you want to be supportive, it requires being present, paying attention to them and what is happening in their world, and cheering them on in big and small moments. The fourth sign we aren't being supportive as a spouse is we make everything about us. Making everything about ourselves can look many different ways. It can include interrupting, deciding we don't have time to listen, not asking questions because we assume we know, or hearing what they're saying and then telling them how we feel about it, or sharing a story about how that happened to us. Making what our spouse shares about ourselves leaves our spouse feeling unseen and unheard in conversations. Being supportive means listening intently, negotiating a time for them to share when you can give them your full attention, asking questions to understand more about what's happening for them, and understanding what you went through likely isn't helpful, as they probably already know about it. It is caring about what they are really trying to communicate and what they want and need from you as they wrestle with what's going on in themselves and in their world. The fifth sign that we aren't being supportive as a spouse is we avoid difficult conversations. Life is full of uncomfortable growth opportunities. There are repeating arguments that are easy to keep ignoring. There are decisions to be made in areas where you see things differently. And there are day-to-day interactions that trigger things that want to be addressed in each of you. Avoiding these tensions is a sign that you aren't being supportive of your spouse. When you are being supportive, you see conflict as an opportunity to grow and learn together. Being supportive leads you to want to ask questions when your spouse seems upset. And when your spouse seems triggered by something you said or did, being supportive brings you to offer empathy and seek understanding. Rather than avoiding what's uncomfortable, you offer yourself to the uncomfortable growth work of support. Being a supportive spouse calls us up. It's like Joseph Campbell says, the cave we fear to enter lies the treasure that we seek. That's what being a supportive spouse looks like and invites us to. It calls us up to the courage to enter those places that we're afraid to go. Offering our spouse for another is what produces a meaningful life. The question to ask isn't whether I am a supportive spouse or not. The question to ask is, am I growing in supporting my spouse? This is the beautiful gymnasium called marriage. It is the greatest place on earth to develop our character if we're willing to step into the workouts that arise in conversation. Thank you for listening to the end. I promised you a gift to help you get started in growing care. In the description under this video, you will find a link to my ebook, Turn Defensiveness into Connection. In this book, I lay out a tool that can help you shift out of the human automatic selfish reactions and develop your ability to move into care and support for another. If you found this episode helpful, would you let me know by giving it a thumbs up and letting me know in the comments below one thing that you're taking away? And if you want to continue to grow your marriage, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss an episode.